Welcome to Rad2, another daily reader for Reddit. Like and subscribe for daily Reddit videos. When you're lying in bed at night, do you ever randomly remember some relatively minor social missteps or poorly chosen words you said years earlier, and then beat yourself up over it even though it really wasn't a big deal? If so, what happened? In 7th grade, a cute girl asked me to sit next to her. I said my mom won't let me sit next to girls. My mom said no such thing. If you said cute girls you'd have been a total baller. So close. That level of smoothness eludes me to this day. That reminds me of something that happened the summer after 7th grade. I was at the mall with my brother and a girl from class asked me, "What would you do if I kissed you?" And my brother said, "Die," and I said, "Yeah. Die." She, rightfully, slapped me and stormed off. I felt like such an butthole and I actually liked her. I was just embarrassed and nervous and trying to seem cool to my older brother. I still feel bad about that. 30-something years later, she must have forgiven me, because we stayed friends after. But I regret making her feel bad. Kids suck. Haha. I accidentally mixed up an inside joke with the wrong friend group with disastrous results. Friend group number 1, the joke was when someone calls and asks who's all there, we would add Daryl to the list of names. Daryl wasn't a real person. The joke wasn't really funny, and made no sense out of context. But I guess that's why it was an inside joke. Friend group number 2, I was hanging out playing some drinking games with a bunch of people that I hadn't hung out with in a while. It was a kind of get-together to remember a friend that they had who had recently died in a car accident. I didn't know him that well, but I was always down to party. Anyway, the phone rings, and the person who answered started listing off names. Sorting my cards for another round of presidents and buttholes, I offhandedly said, "Hey and Daryl." Quote, it was the typical record scratch moment where everyone stopped and looked at me. Daryl was the name of the friend who had just died. This happened in 2002, and I still think about it all the time. Yeah, this one is probably the worst I've heard. Oh man, I have a mixed up inside joke scenario. It wasn't me. It was my neighbor. My neighbor is morbidly obese and my mom is Korean. And they joke with each other about it. My neighbor makes racist comments to my mom. She makes fun of my neighbor's weight. It's just part of their friendship. They often did it in public too. But it was always obvious when they were standing next to each other that it was inside joke. At one point my neighbor was out with her husband. They're both white. She was at a checkout counter when she blithely remarked about all the damn Koreans taking over the region. The checkout lady just stares at her. Then the husband leaned over and said, "It's not as funny when Dragon Meme's mom isn't standing next to you." Cue my horrified neighbor desperately trying to explain that she wasn't a racist. That is an inside joke. My friend is Korean, which of course just made her look worse. My mom lost it when she heard a story. My neighbor is morbidly obese and my mom is Korean. That story had a great start and did not disappoint. Daryl was there in spirit and appreciated that you, at least, remembered he was there. I'm sure that's exactly what Op thinks to say all these years later, but in all actuality he just sat there and stewed in the embarrassment of the moment. Edit. It's an honor to have received a poem from the one and only you, poem_for_your_sprog. They looked at him, silent. He grinned for a while. They stared at him. Sadly, he laughed with a smile. They watched him with anger. He pondered it slow. He paused for a moment. He whispered, quote, "Oh no. This is pure pain right here, folks." Who gilded this comment? Hey Daryl. When I was in 5th grade, our teacher said a joke in front of the class and everyone laughed, including myself. After the laughter died down, a girl looked up at me and said, "You have a really damn disgusting laugh." I became so self-conscious about laughter since that specific day, and after years I have trouble actually laughing. My brain kinda made it a habit to just smile or slightly chuckle at something, even if it is really funny. Edit. The girl's last name, when translated from my native language to English, is Pen15. Have a nice day. Freak that girl. Laughter is one of the best emotions ever, regardless of how it sounds. I'd rather hear people laughing than crying. I knew the girl with Down syndrome and we couldn't let her laugh because she would relieve herself. And it saddened me that she had to avoid laughter because of it. Just belt it out. Frick the B word. And late he lies awake in bed. a whirl of worlds inside his head that slowly wane away in sleep, and dance beyond the dark and deep. He boards a floating boat of dreams, and sails along the silver seams, and all the cares and doubts of day dissolve and dim and drift away. He rides along a tide of stars, a ship, a trip to Earth and Mars, where all the morning's fears are more and all his woes are all before. He moves beyond the black behind, without a thought to fill his mind, except for one, a single twitch. He thinks of her, he whispers, quote, "B word. Kinda engraved into my brain now, gotta work on it." I feel that I had to teach myself to make sex noises. I got used to be totally quiet while I was masturbating. I love this single comment on so many levels, lol. Now I am wondering I should be making noises as well. You should try it. I was the same way. I never made any sounds until I had a girl ask me if I was enjoying myself when we fricked, lol. I felt like it was kinda comparable to riding a roller coaster. I didn't have to make any noises, but when I started being vocal during sex I actually enjoyed it more, and I felt like my partner did too. Let it out, my dude. Junior prom, I blurted out during dinner to my date, "I'm so bored," and I have no idea why it came out of my mouth. I'm pretty well-mannered and quiet. I forget how I tried to play it off, but I felt so bad. I was sitting in a small group of friends in school, and my crush, literally the love of my life at that point, admitted she liked me. It was the happiest moment of my entire life. So naturally I said EW, in front of everyone. This was second grade and I still think about it weekly. My friend in second grade made fun of me for liking a girl. He is now married to said girl. Edit. We had to send away to NASA to tabulate the number of people who said some form of he was playing the long game. I'll keep you guys posted. Good. Now he has cooties. Who's laughing now, butthole? When I was in 6th grade in the gifted and talented group, one of the students couldn't read one of the books because it was about the Salem witch trials and their parents wouldn't let him. My high schooler had a friend in 8th grade that had a super Christian religious family and couldn't do yoga in PE because it was too spiritual. For most of my education, I went to public school, and like most kids, I was socially awkward. For high school, I received an academic scholarship to a private Catholic school. It was a really big deal for my family. I didn't know anyone at the new school. Between an odd combination of academics, sports and the tail end of puberty, I became very popular in this new school. I wasn't used to the attention, and it definitely got to my teenage head. Nearly all of my social circles became around a new school and not with my old local friends. I'm in my junior year. I head to a McDonald's for lunch with a few friends from the new school. Working the counter, I see a girl who I used to go to public school with that I used to have a crush on. She just lit up when she saw me. She was so excited, and I was a crappy teenager and I just ignored her. I pretended I didn't recognize her. She looked so deflated when I didn't acknowledge her. Note this was the 90s. My family moved a few times after that. I settled down in a different part of the country after university. I never made it back to that town. I've relived that butthole moment for years now. Fast forward to one of those nights when I relive that moment, and I decide to look her up on Facebook to apologize. I find out she died 10 years ago in an auto accident. Since I found out her fate, I feel even more awful about that moment. Man, I came here to laugh. That is so sad. For whatever it's worth, I think it says a lot about you that you at least tried to apologize for it years later. That's more than many people would have done. This one makes me feel bad, damn. Yeah, I was not ready for that at all, sad face. When I was 11, it was my first day at a new school and all the other students were also new. The maths teacher started our first class by asking each of us about our education background, what school we came from, what they taught in our last year's maths class, etc. Just trying to get a general idea of what kind of students he was dealing with. Thing is, I was so nervous that I spaced out for a bit and got lost in my overthinking mind. So I didn't hear the teacher's questions to my classmates. When it got to my turn, the teacher just said, "Now tell me about you." Assuming I understood what kind of information he was expecting, I just went straight into a monologue that started with, "So I was born in the south zone of the city, but my mom decided to move to our current neighborhood a few months after divorcing my dad," and went on and on giving some very specific details about my short life. Everyone had a really confused look on their faces, and as soon as I realized the teacher was also completely lost, I stopped talking and went instantly red. The teacher then said, "That's all really great, but I was only interested in what happened last year, not the last 10. And everyone started laughing. Next day nobody remembered it anymore. But 12 years later it still comes to mind in pretty random moments. Edit, a typo. I think that is the key takeaway from these stories. No one remembers them but you. Or if anyone else does remember them, it's with the sort of sympathetic, "Ah, that must have been really embarrassing" responses everyone's leaving on them here. Whenever you're thinking of some super embarrassing thing you did, just try to think about some equally embarrassing things your friends did. You'll have trouble doing so. I wonder, but do they recall, but do they remember that moment at all? The way I was feeling. The lowest of low, but do they remember? The answer is, no. Freshman year of high school. It was one of those days before school starts and you meet your teacher and your parents are there. My teacher was handing me a piece of paper and I didn't see the paper, so I shook his hand. He said, "Oh," and my mom said, and I panicked and said, "I just wanted to be polite." So I still want to die when I think of that. Somehow I feel your pain. That's actually a good recovery. Same happened to me at the airport. She held her hand out for my boarding pass, I shook it instead. The airport, lol. Sounds like a new Apple product. Brew, I can't even begin to pinpoint one event. I guess one thing is when I was 11. I asked my teacher if I could go to the bathroom 3 times during class and told me no. And well, sure enough, I couldn't hold it any longer and there's bullying for the next 6 months. Literally shakes me in bed about how I have never felt that low before. Somehow I managed to live through it though, lol. We all got flaws. Mine is a bladder that urinates prematurely. Frick teachers like that. You're not going to miss the most important lesson of your life if you're gone for 3 freaking minutes. I'd just get up and leave and deal with the consequences. It'd be better than pissing yourself. But at that age, you truly don't know what the right decision might be. I agree. I'm a teacher. I've worked with some very shady students who will ask to go to the bathroom every class, and instead spend 20 minutes roaming the corridors if they can avoid getting caught. During that time, they've been known to vandalize the school or hide away to smoke cigarettes, vape, take drugs during class. I know damn well that 9 times out of 10 that they don't need to actually use the restroom at all. But what else can I do but let them go? If someone had an accident on my watch, my professional reputation would take a massive hit. This is not how things should be either, though. The school administration refused to address a lot of these students' major chronic behavior issues. They were left to do whatever they wanted with little to no consequences. There are teachers who have a "you are only allowed to go to the bathroom X amount of times during the semester" policy. I've also heard of teachers giving students extra credit for not using the bathroom in class. Teachers, don't do this. Don't make your kid choose, "If I go to the bathroom, I'm going to get in trouble, going to miss out on extra credit." In the adult world, you don't have to deal with this crap. You won't get your pay docked for using the bathroom at work. A co-worker of mine was fired recently for falling asleep on the toilet. He was caught because he was snoring. But I was asked a month or 2 before that to see if he was wasting time on the internet. I'm the IT guy. Because his work wasn't getting done. In the adult world, you can use the bathroom as long as your work gets done. But if you use it as an excuse to dodge work, you simply lose your job. You don't get fired from school. I was visiting Portland for a wedding that lined up with my birthday as well. We went out to celebrate and finished the night at a karaoke bar. Realizing I'm too drunk to sing, I pick "My Name Is" by Eminem as my song to perform. There's 2 versions of that song. One is the original release, the other tamed down, which you most commonly hear today. The woman controlling the music put on the original, and off I went. One of the lines at the end is "running over lesbians in a spaceship while they screaming at me, let's just be friends." I finish the song and I'm met by applause from my friends and one other table. The rest of the place is silent. The DJ goes, "Nice job." Don't know if it was the best choice for gay women's night though. And at that moment I wanted to leave my skin. This is very painful. My party trick in high school was that I could rap the fast part of Rap God. When I was a freshman in college, I was hanging out with my friends one night. We were all pretty drunk, but I was probably the most wasted. So I decided to bust out my old party trick. Hey guys, turn on Rap God. Somewhere out there is a video of me lying wasted on the floor of a dorm room, rapping Rap God as fast as my drunk little mouth would go. Chloe, if you're reading this, can you delete that video for me? Frick no dude. I was in the 4th grade and it was Valentine's Day. I was the new kid in school and this one boy had been picking on me all year. My 10-year-old self was very non-confrontational, so I wrote a paragraph on the back of his notes. Valentine, explaining that I don't like it when he's mean to me. And I don't understand why he has to be. He couldn't read my handwriting and brought it to the teacher, who made me read it aloud to both of them. I think about that day every day of my life. He even ended up finding me online and contacting me to apologize a few years ago, but all I can think of is the cringe. That's actually pretty nice of him to apologize years later. Doesn't change anything, but it is good that he changed. And plus, like you, Calfee Doctor said, I think it was pretty brave of you to do that. I think you were very brave. When I was in the 4th grade, I lived in the middle of nowhere and there was practically no minorities. Just white country people. This Mexican family had just moved in and could barely speak any English, and I befriended one of the kids my age in school. He came over to my place and we were both joking around about his bad English. Just doing what kids do. I would pretend to speak with his accent and then he would copy, and it was silly, stupid and the innocent. My mom told me I was being really inconsiderate and how uncool it was to make fun of someone for not being able to speak English. I felt terrible. The next day at school my friend came up to me and started joking with me again, but I just shook my head and looked down at my desk in embarrassment. He had no idea what was wrong and I was too young and dumb to be able to explain my behavior to him. As I grew older I spent probably 20 years thinking about that day and how much of a crap I was to be friendly one day and then without explaining anything just stop talking to him out of embarrassment. I felt really bad about it for a long time and often laid awake at night thinking about it. I ended up finding him on Facebook about a year ago and we friended each other, so I told him how bad I felt about it and apologized. He just laughed it off and said it was no big deal and he was still really thankful to find someone as friendly as me when he didn't know anyone here. He said he figured my mom had said something to me about it and it never bothered him. I don't know if maybe he was just being nice to me or not, but it was such a relief to hear it. It really felt like a weight had been lifted off of me. This is the most wholesome thing I've ever read. I've always been thankful that here in Latin America we make all the dumb racist jokes and mean absolutely no ill will behind them. And your mom is woke as frick, wow. 4th grade classroom. We were having a face-off between students on who could name the capital of whichever state our teacher named. I had been on a roll getting a few correct in a row. Then the teacher says Kentucky, with all of the enthusiasm and seriousness in the world. I screamed, Frank fart. Everyone was dying laughing except for me. At the time, looking back, it cracks me up that I was so upset about it. Thanks for watching Rad 2. Like and subscribe for daily Reddit videos. If you like these videos, check out the original Rad channel.